Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Rosh HaShanna Zayin. We begin 2 lines from the top of the Amid. In our Mishnah, we mentioned that Echad ben Nisan is a Rosh Hashanah pertaining to Malachim, to Regalim. Here comes a Brisa which will add 4 more events which relate to Echad ben Nisan. Says the Gemara 2 lines from the top, Tan Rabbanan, we learned in a Brisa. Be'echad ben Nisan, Rosh Hashanah l'chadashim. So Nisan is the first of the months. So when it comes to counting months, Nisan is number 1, Iyar is number 2, so on and so forth. Uli Iburin is considered Rosh Hashanah regarding leap years, which the Gemara later will explain. Uli Trumas Shkolim. So Echad ben Nisan, you begin using the new funds collected via the Machzas HaShekel collection, and use that to finance the new Karbanos Tzibur in the Migdash, starting from Echad ben Nisan. Some add a 4th item, Af L'Schirus Batim. Echad ben Nisan begins the new year when it comes to apartment rentals, which the Gemara later will explain. Says the Gemara, L'Chadashim Minolan, how do we know that Nisan is the first of all months? This month is going to be the first of all months. In fact, the Ramban learns it's a mitzvah sasei Torah to count your months beginning from Nisan. Nisan number 1, Iyar number 2, etc., so on and so forth. This way you relate to Yitzias Mitzrayim as the primary event in the history of Klal Yisrael, and that kicks off the sequence of months. So surely when it comes to counting years, Tishrei is the starting point. Tafshin Aleph, Tafshin Beis, that relates to Tishrei, which relates to Brias Ha'olam. But when it comes to the uniquely Jewish event of Yitzias Mitzrayim, this spiritual calculation of months and years, we start from the top, which is Nisan, and then Iyar, and then Sivan, which relates back to the great event Yitzias Mitzrayim. So the pasuk says, Rishon hu lachem l'chat she'ashan, it's considered the first of the months. Dabru al kol das Yisrael leimoir ba'asar l'chodesh hazeh v'yikchu lehem ish selabais avei selabais. So it's going to be this month, which is going to be the first. Right? So when you count months, which is uniquely connected to Klal Yisrael, which who follow the lunar year, the months relating to the moon. So when it comes to that, Nisan is number 1. Now, we don't yet know which month the pasuk is referring to. This month is the first. Okay, so the pasuk continues. Dabro kol das Yisrael leimor ba'as l'chodesh hazeh, 10th day of this month. V'yikchu lehem ish selabais avei selabais. They should go ahead and reserve a lamb. Keep an eye on it until the 14th day of this month. In which case they'll take it and do the shchita l'kavod Pesach. So you have the Korban Pesach in honor of the Chag Pesach. Now we don't yet know which month this is. On which month do you have Pesach? It's the first month. But what's the first month? Uksiv Shomer is Chodesh Aviv. So look after the Chodesh of Aviv. Aviv means the time when the grain matures and develops. So that's going to be the month which will have the Chag Pesach. So we're still clueless. And we know that this is the first month. What's this? The month which has Pesach. Which month has Pesach? The month which features Aviv. Says Gemara, Ezu Chodesh yesh by Aviv. During which month do we experience Aviv, the maturing and ripening grain? Havi Omer Zeh Nisan. So now we know. Nisan is the month which has the Aviv. The new grain develops and matures during Nisan. And that's going to be the month which has Pesach. And that month which has Pesach is considered number 1. V'kari le'rishen. Here we know that Nisan is considered number 1. Ve'ima Iyar. Well, how do you know it's Nisan? Maybe it's Iyar. which is considered number one. Says the Gemara, Be'ina aviv. So the Gemara assumes that although in Nisan you have the main element of Aviv, that's when the grains ripen, but in Iyar as well, sometimes you have some leftovers, some lingering grain, which only ripens in Iyar. So perhaps that's the month in which you observe a Pesach. And that the Gemara answers, Be'inan Aviv veleka, which means that the Aviv, which Rashi learns is the properly growing, a properly maturing grain. Aviv is like a father, the bacher, the way it's meant to be. The properly developing grain in its right time happens in Nisan. So although you have some lingering leftover grain which only ripens later on in Iyar, that's not called Aviv. Okay, Ve'im Adar. Maybe it's referring back to Adar, where you have some quick growing grain which ripened then. Be'inan roiv aviv veleka. Pasuk says Shomer es chodesh ha'aviv. The Gemara assumes it means the majority, the primary aviv, which only happens in Nisan. That's the primary month where we find aviv. Whereas in Adar, sometimes you have some quick growing grain, which is zaris, which goes ahead of the bunch, but that's not called the roiv aviv. It's only a small element of aviv, and therefore that's not the topic of discussion. Midi roiv aviv ksiv. Where does the pasuk speak about roiv aviv? As long as you have some aviv, some ripening grain, that's okay. So perhaps the chodesh here is a reference to Adar. Okay, says the one, you're right, you can't bring a raya from this pasuk. Ella Omar of Chizda Mahacha, I'll bring a raya. That what? That the first month is Nisan. Pasuk says, Ach b'chamisha asar yom, we're speaking about Sukkot, on the 15th day, l'chodesh hashvi, of month 7, ba'as b'chemes tvos aretz, when you gather the tvua of the aretz. So we know the month of gathering is considered number 7. Ezo chodesh yesh be'asifa. Which month do you have gathering? Havayim is at Tishrei, at the end of the summer, when everything's finished drying up, you gather in the grain. Korrelate shvi, and the pasuk refers to it as number 7. So you see that Tishrei is number 7. Evidently, Nisan is number 1. What do you mean? Maybe the Torah is referring to a month later, Mar Cheshvan, where you have the Gemara assumes perhaps you have some asaf there. Umay shvi le'ir. Number 7 is to Iyar. Iyar is number 1, and Cheshvan is number 7. Ba'ina asaf veleka. Says the Gemara, you need asaf during this month. Ba'as b'chemes tvos ha'aretz. You don't have that at all in Cheshvan. Apparently everything was gathered in from the fields during Tishrei. Apparently the Torah is not speaking about Cheshvan, rather about Tishrei. Ve'ima El, perhaps it's going back a month, referring to El, where you begin gathering in your crops. Umay shvi la'adar. Number 7 is in reference to Adar. Adar is number 1, and El is number 7. Be'ina roiv asif veleka. Pasuk says ba'as b'chemes tvos ha'aretz. It's referring to the month which features roiv, the majority of asif, where you gather in most of your crop. That only happens on Tishrei. But in on roiv asif veleka, you don't have that on Elul. Midi roiv asif ksiv. Where does the pasuk speak about roiv asif? As long as you have some gathering of crops, perhaps it conforms to ba'as b'chem, and perhaps it's referring to Elul, which is number 7. El Amar Avina, you're right. Davar zem b'teres Moshe Rabbeinu lo lamadnu. Apparently, this concept that Nisan is number 1 cannot be learned from Teras Moshe from Chumash. Rather, medivrei Kabbalah lamadnu. We'll learn it from the words of the Nevi'im. We have a pasuk in Zechariah which says, "B'yom esrim v'arba," on the 24th day, la'ashtei asar chodesh, to the 11th month, hu chodesh Shvat, which is referred to as chodesh Shvat. Oh, so if Shvat is number 11, backtrack 11, you end up with Nisan as number 1. Now Tosfos points out, in the name of the Yerushalmi, Apparently, they already had a Kabbalah, they had a tradition when it comes to the names of the Chadashim, which you don't find mentioned anywhere in Chumash. But as the Rishalmi says, Shmois HaChadashim Olu Biyodem Mi Bavel Berishayna. They brought up with them from Bavel, meaning they had this Kabbalah, that we have 12 names listed in order. Nisan is the month in the spring, Iyar is the next month, Sivan, and so on, until Adar. That they knew. Right? But what they didn't know is what's number one. Where's the starting point? Do we start from Nisan all the way to Adar, or do we start the year with Iyar as number one and go around the cycle with Nisan being number 12, and so on and so forth? That they didn't know. So again, they knew that we have a sequence of months, and Nisan happens to be the month at the beginning of spring. Next one is Iyar, next one is Sivan, but what's number one and what's number 12? And that we're trying to prove from Al Gemara. That's the subject of conversation here. And that we prove from this pasuk, because the pasuk says that Shvat is month number 11. Evidently, backtrack 11, you have Nisan as number 1. So that proves the point. Rabbi Bar Ula Mamahacha, he says, I have another source for this concept. Vatilokach Esther HaMelech Achashverosh. Esther was taken to Achashverosh's palace, Al Beis Malchusay, when B'chodesh HaAsiri Chodesh Teves, month 10, which is Teves. There you go. If Teves is 10, Nisan is number 1. Rav Kahana Amar Mehacha, I have another source for this halacha. Ba'arba l'chodesh hatshi b'Kislev. On the 4th day of the 9th month, which happens to be Kislev. So if Kislev is number 9, Nisan is number 1. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar Mehacha, I have another source. Vayikaru Seifrei HaMelech Ba'isahi b'chodesh hashlishi hu chodesh Sivan. So you see that chodesh Sivan is number 3. And Nisan is number 1. Rav Ashi Amar Mehacha, Hipel Pur hu Hagar Lifnei Haman. So this is when Haman threw his lottery, and it says Miyayim Liyayim U'Mechodesh LeChodesh Shneim Asar U'Chodesh Adar. Month 12 is Adar. Apparently, Nisan is number 1. Or perhaps from this pasuk, B'Chodesh Harishon Chodesh Nisan. First month, which is Nisan. It's pretty clear. Nisan is number 1. V'Kulu my time Amr Mihai. Why didn't the other Amiroim bring their right from this pasuk that Nisan is number 1? Can't get clearer than that. Perhaps Dilma my Rishon Lemilsa. Perhaps the pasuk there, which refers to Nisan as number 1, it's not number 1 of the months, number 1 on the counting of the months. Rather, Rishon Lemilsa, it happened to have been the first month of his Haman's shenanigans, his activities. So it happened to be his first month for whatever he was doing. And you don't really have a raya from there. It's considered the first month in the counting of the months. Now it's not clear from the Gemara why each Amoyer preferred his pasuk over the other pasuk, but in any case, this was a kasha. Here we have Nisan number 1. The Gemara explains why they preferred not learning from there. Okay, so in any case, we proved from a variety of sources that in fact the month of Nisan is considered number 1 with reference to the other months. Now this was a brisa that we learned today, but what about our Mishnah on Daf Beis Amud Aleph, which didn't mention Echad B'Nisan as being Rosh HaShanna l'Chadashim? Why did the Mishnah leave it out? V'Tana Didan. Our Tana did not mention this. Why? B'Shanim K'Mayri, B'Chadashim K'Mayri. He spoke about events which start New Year's. He's relating to annual events, to the year cycle, as opposed to Rosh HaShanna l'Chadashim, which is something that pertains to months. It's a different system. That's not what he was talking about, and that's why he didn't mention it on his list. Okay, so our brisa discussed Rosh HaShanna l'Chadashim and also Uli Burin. Now the Gemara figures what he meant was that Rosh Chodesh Nisan, you sit down to evaluate, to contemplate whether the next year will be a leap year. That's too early, says the Gemara. Uli Burin mi Nisan maninan. How do you say that the Ibur discussion started from Nisan? It's way too early. Bezdin never sits down, deliberates, and decides, and issues the message to the masses that this coming year is going to be a Shana Mu'beres. It's way too early. By the time Adar rolls around, they're going to forget. Vim Ibrua Inu Mu'beres. If they should actually decide on the Ibur at that point, it doesn't work. It's way too early. Aval Pneatchak, however, in a time of need, time of necessity, for instance, when they know that the Goyim might give them a hard time, might prevent them from sitting down and deliberating regarding the Ibur, or perhaps the Nasi won't be around, in which case they won't have the authority to decide regarding Ibur. So what's the earliest they can do it then? Okay, right after Rosh HaShanna, it's the earliest point. We allow it in the case of necessity. But that's it, not before Rosh HaShanna. And even when they sit down after Rosh HaShanna, you're meant to know that the double month will have to be Adar. You can't double up the Tishrei, the Cheshvan, the Kislev. It's going to be a second Adar. Rashi brings the drasha because it says Shomer is Chodesh Aviv. Look out for the Chodesh Aviv, which we learned before is referring to Nisan, when your crops mature and develop. And you meant to make sure that the solar seasons coincide with the lunar calendar. And if you see a discrepancy, add a new month right there, so that Aviv falls out in its right time. So we know that it's going to be an extra Adar either way. But at the earliest, they can do this right after Rosh HaShanna, not back in Nisan. Amar of Nachman Bar Yitzchak, my Iburin. Oh, you know what the Brisa meant? Havsakas Iburin. Echad B'Nisan is a deadline past which you can no longer deliberate and add a month to the past year. So all throughout Adar, until Nisan, you have the opportunity to add a month. But once Echad B'Nisan comes around, it's over. It's a new year. Pertaining to Ibur, you can no longer go back and double up the Adar. But you can do it throughout the entire Adar. The Snan, Heina Idu, referring to Rabbi Shua and Rabbi Pafias, they testified, Shema Abrin Hashana Kol Adar. You can go ahead and make Ibur throughout the entire Adar. Because other Chacham used to disagree. They would say that Purim is the deadline, past which you can no longer decide on Ibur Hashana. And they came and they testified, no, you have until Nisan. My time of the Madam Ada Purim. What would be the reason to limit Ibur until Purim and not past? Even the Amar Mar. Since we learned that Shoyalin of Bilchas Pesach, Koydem la Pesach Shloshim Yom, starting 30 days before Pesach, we're meant to get involved in discussions regarding halachas of Pesach to prepare ourselves in advance of the Yom Tov. And the speakers are already getting up and discussing halachas and drashis and shiurim regarding the upcoming Yom Tov. They're all in the mood, they're in the spirit of the upcoming Yom Tov. And now we're going to turn things around for them. We're going to add another month for Adar. So instead of Pesach arriving in 30 days, suddenly they'll hear the news that was postponed a month. They'll disregard that news. What do you mean? We're already into Pesach. The Darshanam are speaking about Yom Tov. That must be mistaken. The news coming from Bezdin must be unreliable. And they're going to observe Pesach at the wrong time. Asil is Azuli B'chametz. They're going to disregard Isur Chametz. That's why we say up until Purim, but not past. Because once Purim arrives and they start discussing Pesach, it's too late to shift things around. V'idach, the other Shita who says, no, you can still be Ma'abra until the end of the year, until Nisan, because people are reasonable. Made the idea, everybody understands. The Shata Ma'barta, to make a Shana Mu'beres, B'chush B'Natalia Musa, it takes a lot of deliberation. It depends on complex calculations. V'savri, they'll understand, they'll figure, they'll be mature about it, they'll understand. Chush B'Nodolay Salak L'Rabbana, the Cheshbon, the calculation was not verified and confirmed to the Rabbanim. I'll do it until now. And they'll be easygoing, they'll know how to shift tracks. Therefore, we allow it to happen, but only until Nisan. Then it's considered the next year as per Ibur, and it's too late. So that's the Rosh HaShanna Ibur that the Brisa meant. Echad B'Nisan is the deadline when it comes to Ibur HaShanna. Getting back to the other Shaila, V'Tana Didan, what about our Tana? Why didn't he mention this, Rosh HaShanna? He spoke about events which lead into things. Starting point of the next year as pertaining to Shemitah, to Yovel, etc. He wasn't speaking about things which are deadlines. Rosh HaShanna, the head of the new year. It kicks in a new era. You start a system. Like the head of a body controls the body. The Rosh, that day, is the head of the next year. It brings in a new era. It brings in a new system. Rosh HaShanna Libur, that's a deadline. It's an end point, not a starting point. Apparently this Tana held, no. Echad B'Nisan is considered the starting point for the next year. It's a new year. Regarding Ibur, a new year, a new opportunity, a new leap year, if you want to do it at the end of next year. So there's a slight nuance here. There's a machlekes of how to view the Rosh HaShanna Libur. Is it an end point or a starting point? The Brisa over here mentioned, the Echad B'Nisan is Rosh HaShanna v'letrumas hashkolim, pertaining to the funding of the new karbanis. You meant to finance the new karbanis in the Mishkan, using the funds collected through the Trumas HaShekel, through the Machzah HaShekel. Menol, how do we know that he meant to use the fresh funds to finance the new karbanis, starting from Echad B'Nisan? Rabbi Yashir, Amakra, Zois Oilaz Chodesh B'Chodshei L'Chodshei HaShanna. Now Rashi explains there were several references to Chodesh B'Chodshei in this pasuk, which seems to be a riboy, superfluous the language, and we learn from here as follows: Amr Torah, Torah is telling you, Chadesh, renew, refresh, v'havei karban mitruma chadasha. The new karban is starting Echad B'Nisan onward should be financed using the new funds truma chadash. V'gam rishana shana B'Nisan. Now, understand that there's going to be a starting point regarding the new funding, but how do you know it's Nisan? We learn through Gzera Shava. We connect the word Shana in this pasuk that we just mentioned to another pasuk elsewhere. We compare the two, just as over there it's referring to Nisan, over here as well. The Chsiv Rishon Hu Lachem L'Chodshei HaShana. So Shana is a reference to a year beginning at Nisan. V'ligmar Shana Shana Mitishrei. Why can't we draw a parallel between our Shana to another Shana elsewhere, which is referring to a year starting from Tishrei? The Chsiv Reishis HaShana. This is when Hashem views the world and judges the world starting from Reishis HaShana, which is Tishrei, as we're going to see later on in Daf Ches. So we see the Shana in reference to a year beginning with Tishrei. Answers the Gemara. We prefer the other source, which is referring to Nisan, because Donin. We compare Shana Sheyeshim Chadashim, our pasuk of Zois Oilas Chodesh B'Chodshei L'Chodshei HaShana, which is the word Shana next to Chadashim. We compare that to a pasuk of Rishon Hu Lachem L'Chodshei HaShana, which has the phrase Shana next to Chadash. Mishana Sheyeshim Chadashim, and just as over there it's Nisan, over here as well. Ve'ein done in Shana Sheyeshim Chadashim, rather than learning our pasuk, which mentions Shana with Chadashim, from the other pasuk Mereshis HaShana, which is Mishana She'enim Chadashim, although we have the word Shana, but no Chadashim are mentioned, and therefore it's more similar to the other pasuk, which indeed is referring to Nisan. Amar B'Yidamar Shmuel, Karbanis Tzibur Haboin Be'echad B'Nisan. You meant to know that the new Karbanis, starting from Echad B'Nisan, Mitzvah Lavi Min HaChadash, there's a mitzvah to use the new funding to finance those Karbanis. But that's only L'chatchila. But if you actually use the old money, last year's funds, to finance the next year's Karbanis, he's Yaitze El Shechir Mitzvah, although he missed out on a mitzvah opportunity. We have likewise in the Brisa, Karbanis Tzibur Haboin Be'echad B'Nisan. The new Karbanis starting Echad B'Nisan, Mitzvah Lavi Min HaChadash. It's a mitzvah to use the new funding to finance that Karbanis. V'imhevi Min HaYashin Yotza. If you use the old funds to finance new Karbanis, he's Yaitze El Shechitza Mitzvah, although he missed out on a mitzvah opportunity. The Brisa continues, V'yachad, even an individual, She'nisnadi Mishalai, decided to donate his own personal carbon to the Mikdash, Ksher, and he can use it for the Karbanis Tzibur, B'avad Yimsar L'Tzibur, provided that he actually handed it over wholeheartedly to the Tzibur. You can't hold on, you can't retain ownership, because it has to be a carbon Tzibur, a public carbon. If he gives it over properly, then the Tzibur can use it. Pshita. Says the Gemara, isn't that obvious? If he gives it over properly, why should he not use it? Perhaps I would think there's a concern, Leichush. Perhaps we'll be concerned, Shema, perhaps he's not really going to give it completely over to the tzibur. Rashi says on top, Rashi B'Metzia says, you know what, he might want to hold on to it. My carbon being used in the Beis Hamikdash for the Tamid, so although he's going to give it, but it's not going to be a wholehearted gift. Kamashman, the Chiddush is we're not concerned. Now Tosfos asks, actually, the Gemara B'Metzia, we do have a machlekes. Whether or not we're concerned about Shema Yimserim Yafiyafa, the story there is about these people who are watching over wild growing grain, which are going to be used in the Beis Hamikdash, and it's on Shemitah. And the Gemara has machlekes whether they can donate their time. They can do it on a voluntary basis. One Shita says no, they have to get paid, otherwise it belongs to them, and perhaps they're not going to give it wholeheartedly. They're going to want to retain some sort of ownership in the carbon tzibur. The other Shita says no problem, they'll give it over completely. So we see it's a machlekes Tanaim. And over here the Gemara seems to assume that it's so pashut that we're not concerned about this problem of giving it over wholeheartedly. So Tosfos says, in that case, we're more concerned. And the Tosfos Rosh explains because over there perhaps the Shomer won't realize that he has rights. After all, I'm just volunteering, it's not really my thing. So perhaps over there he might not realize that he has to give it over wholeheartedly, as opposed to over here where he's actually donating his own carbon. He takes his goat and gives it over to the Mikdash. It's pretty clear and simple that he has to give it over, otherwise it's his. And otherwise the carbon is puzzle. So in our case, indeed, we're not concerned about retaining rights or ownership. Okay, so now we go back to that Shaila. Why didn't our Tana on Beis Hamikdash Aleph add this to his list of Rosh HaShanna? Rosh HaShanna ben Nisan for the Trumas Halishka. Says the Gemara of Tana Didan, why didn't our Tana on Beis mention this on his list? That he meant to use the new funds to finance the new karbanis. Kivin the Ketani, maybe Yotza like Psikale, since we had a brisa that bid the Eved if you use the last year's funds for this year's karbanis your Yotze. So it's not a set absolute halacha. And the Mishnah only mentioned absolute irreversible concepts, and therefore he did not add this to his list. And the brisa added a fourth Rosh HaShanna. Some added Af l'schirus batim, which means that Kam Echad Ben Nisan, the year is up when it comes to rentals. So if one rented the home and he didn't specify, he says, I'm renting it for this year. When is the year up? The year is up, Echad Ben Nisan. Tanu Rabban, we learned in the Brisa, Masker Bais L'Chaver L'Shana. Ruvain rented a home to Shimon for a year. A year is a year, 12 months. Moinish Neimasar Chodesh Miyam Liyam. So he has 12 full months from the day of rental to the day where he vacates the property. That's because he said L'Shana. Amar L'Shana Zu, however, instead of saying L'Shana, he said L'Shana Zu this year, referring to a certain element, a certain entity called Shana this year. When is the year up? As per rentals. Even if you only entered the first day of Adar, also L'Shana. As soon as Echad Ben Nisan arrives, year is up. The Gemara will explain because Echad Ben Nisan represents the end of winter, the end of the rain season. So when it comes to rental terminology, the year is up, Echad Ben Nisan. Now, that's only provided he was there for a month. As the Bryce explained, he came in Echad Ba'adar, 30 days later, his time's up. Apparently, if he arrived later than that, more recent than Echad Ba'adar, Purim, which is only 2 months from Nisan, 2 weeks from Nisan, we don't say, your time is up, come Echad Ben Nisan. That's too little. Even according to that shita, which we had back on our base, that holds that even experiencing one day within a year is considered having had that year, having registered with that year. Pertaining to the kings over there, that if the king only officiated one day, the last day of the year, we said that as soon as tomorrow Echad Ben Nisan comes along, it's already considered year 2 because he had already experienced one day last year, because Yom Echad B'Shana is already somewhat considered having had that year. That's only over there by kings when it comes to dating documents. But when it comes to living in apartments, nobody moves out after a day. Shani Yacha, here it's different. Loy Torach Inish. A person would not trouble himself. Lemegar Beisa, to rent a home for a period of less than 30 days, the whole moving and the whole, it's certainly not plausible. That's what he had in mind. So if he moved in Echad Ba'adar or prior, then we say that the year is up, Echad B'Nisan. But if it's more recent than that, we don't apply this concept. Says the Gemara Ve'ema Tishrei. How do you know what Shana Zu means? You're assuming it ends Echad B'Nisan. You know what? People speak about Tishrei as being Rosh HaShanna. In fact, when it comes to counting years from Bria So'ilam, Tafshin Allah, Tafshin Beis, the switchover happens Tishrei. Maybe that's what he had in mind. The Shana Zu until Tishrei. Answers the Gemara, Stam ki agar inish beisa. We assume that when one approaches to rent a home, l'kulu yemais hagsham agar. When he rents a home, he has a winter in mind. He certainly doesn't want to be evicted echad b'tishrei and have to look for a place to live during winter time. So the assumption is, we have to pick and choose between one or the other. The assumption is the year ends after winter, after the rain season, which is echad b'tishrei. So this was the final item on this list in the Bryce, added by the Yesh Eimer. So in addition to Echad B'Nisan being Rosh HaShanna l'Chadashim, as per the count of months, Uli Iburin, as per the deadline when it comes to Ibur HaShanna, Uli Trumas Shkolm, as per financing the new karbanes from the new funds, we have Yesh Eimerim Afl Skiras Batim, Echad B'Nisan being year over when it comes to rentals. Now, V'Tanakama de Bryce. Why didn't Tanakam of the Bryce agree with this? And number two, Tana Didan, our Tana, not Beza Moral from Rosh HaShanna. Why didn't they mention this as a Rosh HaShanna? The answer is, they didn't hold of it. Because B'Nisan Nami, sometimes even during Nisan, Mishkach Shchiach Kitri, you sometimes have a gathering of clouds, meaning it can rain, it's still considered somewhat rain season during Nisan. Therefore, what right do you have to consider Echad B'Nisan as the endpoint of his rental? Indeed, how to proceed? Do they mean to say that Echad B'Tishrei will now be the Rosh HaShanna L'Aschirus Batim? So instead of Nisan, it's going to be Tishrei? Or perhaps, as other Rishonim learn, according to these Shitas, the Tanoim, there is no Rosh HaShanna when it comes to Aschirus Batim. You rent a home for a Shana Zu, you get a full year. Okay, so let's go back to our Mishnah Daf Beis, which said Be'echad Be'elul, Rosh HaShanna L'Maser Behema. Elul is Rosh HaShanna when it comes to Maser Behema, which means you can't mix last year's crop of animals with this year's bunch. The ones born before Echad Be'elul get their own Maser Behema. Likewise, the ones born after Be'elul are considered separate and independent when it comes to Maser Behema. Mani, who is the author? Who's the one that holds that Echad Be'elul relates to Maser Behema? Rabbi Meir. Because we have a machlekes in the Mishnah in B'cheres, and evidently this is Rabbi Meir, this non. Rabbi Meir Omer, Be'echad Be'elul, Rosh HaShanna L'Maser Behema. Indeed, Echad Be'elul is considered Rosh HaShanna when it comes to Maser Behema. Okay. Now the Mishnah also mentioned that Echad B'Nisan is Rosh HaShanna V'lo Regalim. Right? I think more explained that what it meant is Echad B'Nisan begins the month of Nisan, which contains the Rosh HaShanna L'Regalim, which is Pesach. Pertaining to what? To Bal Ta'achar. Because according to Rabbi Shimon, if one has a neder, which he has to bring to the Mikdash, a korban, tzedakah, a whole long list of commitments, if he delays, if he fails to fulfill his commitment past 3 regalim, starting from Pesach, it has to be in order, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, he has committed Bal Ta'achar. So Echad B'Nisan is Rosh HaShanna L'Regalim, according to Rabbi Shimon, who says you need 3 regalim in order, Sholosh regalim Kisidron. So the regalim Mani, who's speaking here? Rabbi Shimon here. It's not Rabbi Meir. You may recall that Rabbi Meir held that even one chodesh and one regal triggers the Bal Ta'achar. So on the one hand, we have the date Echad Be'elul pertaining to Maser Behema, which reflects Rabbi Meir's Shita, and not Rabbi Shimon. We're going to see soon that Rabbi Shimon holds that Echad B'Tishrei is Rosh HaShanna L'Maser Behema. So when we speak about Echad Be'elul as pertaining to Maser Behema, that's Rabbi Meir speaking. We speak about Echad B'Nisan being Rosh HaShanna L'Regalim, as pertaining to the middle of that month, Tesvav Benisan, Pesach being number 1 on the list of regalim regarding Baal Ta'achar. Who's speaking there? Mani Rab Shimoni. Okay, Ema Seifa. Let's proceed further down the Mishnah. When it comes to Masa Behema, Rab Lezer, Rab Shimon, Oymer Be'echad B'Tishrei. They hold that Masa Behema relates to Tishrei, not to Elul. So going back and forth. Reish of a Sefer Rab Shimon. The Mishnah begins and resumes later on with Rab Shimon's Shita. The regalim is Rab Shimon, not Rab Meir. Echad B'Tishrei, Rosh HaShanna L'Masa Behema. Who's speaking? Rab Shimon again. U'Mitziasar Rab Meir. And the middle element in that phrase is Rab Meir. That Echad Be'elul is Rosh HaShanna L'Masa Behema. It's unlikely that the Mishnah would present Shitas back and forth. First Rab Shimon speaks, then Rab Meir, then Rab Shimon. So this seems to be a kasha. So either way we're stuck. According to Rab Meir, we don't have the Rosh HaShanna Regalim. Because according to him, one Yom Tov creates Baal Ta'achar. According to Rab Shimon, well, Masa Behema doesn't relate to Elul. Amar Rav Yosef, you know who's speaking? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who composed, who edited the Mishnahs. He's the one speaking. And he picked and chose elements from different shitas. He can do that. But regalim savlek Rab Shimon, when it comes to Echad Benisan being Rosh HaShanna regalim, as per Baal Ta'achar, he had like Rab Shimon. So he put it on the list. Ubemasa Behema, savlek Rab Meir. When it comes to Rosh HaShanna pertaining to Masa Behema, he had like Rab Meir, Echad Be'el. So it's not Rab Shimon or Rab Meir personally speaking, it's Rabbi speaking. He happened to pick an element of Rab Shimon's Shita, regalim, and an element of Rab Meir's Shita, Masa Behema. Says the Gemara. Now, if it would have been Rab Shimon speaking, or Rab Meir speaking, so you understand that there are only 4 Rosh HaShanna, right? Because Rab Meir holds of his 4, Rab Shimon holds of his 4. But if it's Rab Yehuda Nasi speaking, if it's Rebbe who's speaking to us, Ihachich Arba. Why did the Mishnah say Arba Rosh HaShanna? Chamisha Habu. We have 5. Why? Echad ben Nisan, right? That's the Malachim, right? We have the fact that Nisan is Rosh HaShanna for Regalim, which is Pesach, on the 15th day of Nisan. That's another Rosh HaShanna. We have Echad Be'elul, Masa Behema, Echad Be'tishrei for Shmit and for Yevlis. And we have the Shvat for the Ilanis. So it's not 4, it's 5. If it's Reb Shimon speaking, or Rebbe speaking, you're right, you only have 4. For example, according to Reb Shimon, you don't have Echad Be'elul, because he held that Masa Behema relates to Tishri, not to Elul. If it's Reb Meir speaking, you don't have Regalim, because you don't have the halacha of Sholish Regalim considering starting from Pesach, according to Reb Meir. But if it's Rebbe speaking, and he holds of all these Rosh Hashanah, he holds like Reb Meir, Elul is Masa Behema. He holds like Reb Shimon, Regalim is for Baal Ta'achar. So that Regalim is the 15th day of Nisan. So you have a total of 5 Rosh Hashanah. Echad ben Nisan, Tezvav ben Nisan, Echad Be'el, Echad Be'tishrei, and Shvat. Yihachi Arba, Chamisha Havu, you have 5. So why does the Mishnah say Arba Rosh Hashanah? Amar Rava. You know what the answer is? Arba al Divrei HaKol. You're right. According to Rebbe, there are 5 Rosh Hashanah. Why does the Mishnah say 4? 4 is a universally accepted number. So Rebbe himself holds of 5. When he said Arba Rosh Hashanah, he meant, according to all Shittas, you have at least 4. Why? Liter of Meir, Arba, according to Meir, you can have 4, Dal Regalim, because we deduct the Tesvav Ben Nisan, which is Regalim. He didn't hold of that. So you deduct that from the list. Leaves you with 4. Liter of Shimon Arba, likewise, according to Reb Shimon, you have 4. Dal Masa Behema, because you deduct the Echad Be'el, which is Masa Behema, which he doesn't hold of. So according to all opinions, you have at least 4. I hold of 5. But according to all Shittas, you have at least 4, and that's why he said Arba Rosh Hashanah Heim. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Amar, he says, I'll explain to you differently. The reason why it says Arba Rosh Hashanah Heim, even though you really have 5 starting points, Arba Chadashim, what he meant is you have 4 months, Ubehen Kama Rosh HaShanna, which contain many Rosh HaShannas. So the Mishnah said, Haba Rosh HaShanna, Mishnah meant like this, Arba months, which contain several Rosh Hashanah, a total of 5. Which are the 4 months? Nisan, which happens to contain 2, Echad b'Nisan, and Tesvav b'Nisan, that's Regalim. You have the Elul month, you have Tishrei month, you have Shvat. So the number 4 pertains to months. Although in total you have 5 Rosh Hashanah contained in those 4 months. But either way, whether it's Rava or Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, the Mishnah does seem to consider even a mid-month Rosh Hashanah as a Rosh Hashanah. Regalim is a mid-month Rosh Hashanah. It's Pesach, which is the middle of Nisan. Meisvei, now I'm going to have a kasha from a Bryce. Bryce says, Shisha Asa ben Nisan, Rosh Hashanah L'Omer. The 16th day of Nisan is considered the beginning of the year pertaining to Omer, because that's when you makriv the Omer from the new crop of barley, which allows you to consume the new grain of the new year. So that's considered Rosh Hashanah. It's a starting point for this allowance, for allowing you to tap into the new grain of the new year. Likewise, Shisha B'Sivan, which is Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah L'Shtei Lechem. It's considered the beginning of the year regarding Shtei Lechem, because that's when we bring the Shtei Lechem to the Mikdash, which triggers or kicks off the new year, pertaining to the new crop being used for the new karbanis in the Mikdash. So now we have another 2 Rosh Hashanah. Omer Shtei Lechem. Why aren't they on the list? Rava, listen to Shisha. According to Rava, let's have a total of 6. Instead of 4, it goes up to 6. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, who spoke about months being counted, okay, so then the Omer, which is already in Nisan, has already been counted. Nisan is already on the list. But the Shtei Lechem, which is in Sivan, should be added to the list. Listen to Chamisha, let's have 5 instead of 4. 5 months. Nisan, Sivan, Elul, Tishri, and Shvat. Amar Papa, you know why we don't count Omer and Shtei Lechem? There's a big difference between them and the other Rosh Hashanah. Kika Chashiv. You know what belongs on the list? Midi Dechail Mu'urta. A Rosh Hashanah which starts off at night. What is a Rosh Hashanah? This day is the starting point of the next year pertaining to X, Y, Z. So if it starts from the beginning of the night, then it's considered the Rosh Hashanah. Midi Dechail Mu'urta like a Chashiv. But something which does not relate to the beginning of the night, such as the Omer, which is brought during the next day, Shtei Lechem, brought in the next day. That's an event which doesn't relate to the Yom itself. It's not the Yom as a full total unit of a Yom, which is triggering the new, which is considered the starting point of the new era. It's something which happens during the day, therefore doesn't qualify as Rosh Hashanah. That's why we ignore the Omer Shtei Lechem. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? What about Regalim? So for instance, Pesach, which is number 1 of the 3 Regalim. So if a person passes through the 3 Yom Tovim with an unfulfilled neder, he has committed Baal Ta'achar. Now Regalim, says the Gemara, is Lo Chayli Mi'urta. It doesn't begin, it doesn't initiate at the beginning of the night. And still we have it on the list. Why? What does the Gemara mean? Let's say this fellow committed to a neder, committed to a korban during the night. So it's the first night of Pesach, Leila Seder, sometime more than the night he committed to bringing a neder. Okay? Now, he already missed part of that night. He missed the starting point of Urta of that night. It's already middle of the night. What do we say? Gemara assumes we don't give him any discount. That Pesach is considered Yom Tov number 1, regal number 1, pertaining to Baal Ta'achar. So if he delays past that Pesach, past the next Shavuos, past the next Sukkot, he was over Baal Ta'achar. Although he already missed that first night. The Gemara is assuming that Baal Ta'achar is totally on Zman HaKrova. Why is the Yom Tov considered something that triggers Baal Ta'achar? Because he can bring the korban that Yom Tov. And since the Zman HaKorban is only by day, right? Only the following day. So although he missed part of the night, so what? He doesn't get any discount. We don't consider the starting point of the Yontif pertaining to Baal Ta'achar until the daytime arrives, which is Zman HaKrava. So although he missed part of the night, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. So what do you see? That a Yontif pertaining to Baal Ta'achar starts by day. We don't reckon with the night. We don't care about the night, having passed them already. The Zman of Regalim regarding Baal Ta'achar is by day, which is Zman HaKrava. So that's the Gemara's kasha. Regalim de lo'chayli mi'urta, the concept of a Yontif pertaining to Baal Ta'achar, pertaining to triggering Baal Ta'achar, doesn't start at night. Even if he missed the first night, he only made another sometime in the night. He missed the starting point of the night. He cut off a bit of that night-day unit. It's irrelevant. And we see Regalim on the list. That's a steer to your concept. That we only have things on the list which pertain to full units. Night and day as one unit. Says the Gemara, no, that's actually incorrect. He'll get a discount. We take out the next two words. We start from li'isui. Li'isuye mikara mechai v'koi. The truth is that it has nothing to do with Zman HaKrava. You're working with the assumption that the Zman HaKrava is what triggers the Baal Ta'achar. Look, it's incorrect. Because li'isuye, this fellow, to bring a carbon, mikara mechai v'koi. He was obligated before Yom Tov. He's not chayiv to bring a neder because it's Yom Tov. He made a neder a week before Yom Tov. He could have brought it then. This Zman HaKrava is not Yom Tov. He could have brought it before Yom Tov. Rather, when the Torah speaks about Regalim triggering Baal Ta'achar, it's just a Zman. Happens to be. This is a Zman. You're meant to be the Migdash. You can bring your carbon. It's a Zman which triggers Baal Ta'achar. So if you pass through 3 Yom Tovim, Baal Ta'achar applies. And when does the Zman begin? Zman begins at night. Right? So you're right. If this fellow was noider, the nether, throughout the night, so he missed the starting point of the night, he's potter. This regal no longer counts as regal number 1. Because actually regalim have to begin from the night. The Rosh HaShanna regalim is starting dafka if it starts at night. The Zman. This Zman is what triggers Baal Ta'achar. The Zman has to start night and day. From the first point of the night, the Zman begins. If he missed that, if he only made the nether into the night, that regal no longer is applied to his Baal Ta'achar. So Gemara figured, and the Havamina, that the reason why a regal makes Baal Ta'achar is because you can bring the carbon today, and that only applies once it's daytime, Zman HaKrava. So although he missed the night, he made the nether sometime throughout the night, it's irrelevant. It's not considered to have missed part of that Zman. The one says no. Baal Ta'achar is because he missed the Zman of the regal, not the Zman HaKrava. Zman HaKrava was yesterday, 2 weeks ago. He wasn't mechuyev in the carbon because it's Yom Tov. He was mechuyev in the carbon because he committed to bring the carbon. Happens to be there's halacha. If he missed 3 Zmanim, 3 regalim, as per Zmanim of regal, he's ever Baal Ta'achar. In which case, the Zman begins at the first point of night. If he only made a nether into the night, so he missed that first point, and we don't count this regal as his Zman pertaining to his Baal Ta'achar. So the bottom line is, on our list of Rosh HaShanna, we only have things which initiate Me'urta, the first point of night. What do you mean? Yovel, the Gemara assumes, is only activated on Yom Kippur. The Lo'chayli Me'urta, it doesn't start at night. The Pasuk says you should blow the shofar Yom Kippur. It's only by day. The Kechash, and the Mishnah has it on the list. Answers the Gemara, no. Rabbi Shmuel, B'noi, Shabrechem Broiki, we're following this sheet of the Amar. Rosh HaShanna Chayil, Yovel starts from Rosh HaShanna, and actually the night before Rosh HaShanna, starting from the night of Rosh HaShanna, Yovel gets applied. Okay, so we had a terrace tower kasha. Why didn't we mention Oymer Shtel Lechem? Rav Papa tells us because it's something which happens by day, and the list in our Mishnah only contains items which start Me'urta at the first point of night. Rav Shishi B'ed Rav Idu Amar, he has a different terrace. Kika Chashev, we only list things which are related to the day itself. Things which are not dependent on actions. Echad b'Nisan, Echad b'Tishrei, the day itself, the Rosh HaShanna is the day. But Omer Shtalechem, which are things that are dependent on activities, on events, on doing, and that's not Rosh HaShanna. We have in our list. Rosh HaShanna means the day, which leads into the upcoming era. But Omer Shtalechem, they're masim, they're mitzvahs that you have to do. It's not really day related. It's masa related and doesn't belong on our list. V'regalim. What about regalim? The Gemara assumes that the Baal Ta'achar, which results from the regal passing you by, only happens once daytime arrives and you can bring your korban, which is only after Tamid Shel Shachar. So it's something which happens through a masa. Says the Gemara, no, you're wrong. Baal Ta'achar and Melechayel. Similar to the Gemara's teretz before, as soon as Yom Tov arrives, as soon as you have Tzeitzak Yechavim, Baal Ta'achar gets activated. It has nothing to do with the Tamid Shel Shachar. It's the Zman of Yom Tov. As soon as Kedushas Yom arrives, you have your Baal Ta'achar. Very Yovelis. What do you mean Yovel is Tali? The Tkiyah Shefer, the Bezdin, it's a Masa. Once again, says the Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel Bnoi Shobrechem Broikehi, who holds that the Kedushas Rosh HaShanna triggers Yovel, not the Tkiyah Shefer of Bezdin. Okay, so according to this teretz, the reason why we omit Omer Shtalechem is because there's something which are totally b'masa and not relating to the day itself. There's more Rav Ashi Omar. He's going to go back to the original kasha. We had a kasha. Why is it Arba Rosh Hashanah? We really have 5. Echad b'Nisan for Malachim, Tesvav b'Nisan for Regalim, Echad b'Elul for Masa Behema, Echad b'Tishrei for Shemitin and Yovelis, and then we have Shvat. It's 5. Rav Ashi Omar. The answer is Arba Rosh HaShanna. We have 4 Rosh Hashanahs, Shein Ba'arba Rosh Chadashim, which relate to 4 Rosh Chadashim. That's unique about them. The Rosh Hashanah which happen to apply to beginning of months as well. So we have both elements combined, then we listed in our Mishnah. As opposed to Regalim, which is a mid-month Rosh Hashanah. And therefore, it doesn't belong on the list. And likewise, the Omer Shtalechem are mid-month events and don't belong on the list. Says the Gemara, what's your 4th? What's your number 4? Shvat. Echad Shvat, you following Beis Shammai? So the Stam Mishnah is following Beis Shammai? It's a kasha. Because according to Beis Hillel, it's really 2 B'Shvat. And not in the beginning of the month. The Mishnah meant like this. 3 Rosh Hashanah according to all shittas. Right? Echad b'Nisan. Echad b'Elul, Echad b'Tishrei, Echad b'Shvat. Regarding the 4th one, it's actually Machlokes b'Sham b'Sil. According to Beis Shammai, it's really not. According to Beis Hillel, it's really not Echad b'Shvat. According to Beis Shammai, it is. So 3, according to all shittas. The 4th one is dependent upon Machlokes b'Sham b'Sil. Okay, so what do we have? Mishnah speaks about Arba Rosh Hashanah, and really we have potentially 5 Rosh Hashanah, Echad b'Nisan, Tesvav b'Nisan, that's Regalim, Echad b'Elul for Masa Behema, Echad b'Tishrei for Shemitin and Yovelis. And we have the Shvat, Rosh Hashanah Leilan. So Gemara had 3 Terutzim. There's apparent a dilemma. How do we only have 4 if we really have 5? Rav's teretz was, it's Rebbe speaking. He himself really held a 5. What he meant is that according to all shittas you have 4. According to Reb Shimon you have 4. We deduct 1, Echad b'Elul, because he holds Masa Behema as Echad b'Tishrei, and according to Reb Meir, we deduct Tesvav b'Nisan because he doesn't hold of the Rosh Hashanah Regalim. So he himself held a 5. According to Reb Shimon, it's 4. According to Reb Meir, it's 4. Rav Yitzchak's teretz was speaking about months which contain Rosh Hashanah. So Nisan really has 2 Rosh Hashanah, but it's only counted as 1. So it's Nisan, Elul, Tishrei, and Shvat. According to Rav Ashi, the 4 Rosh Hashanah are the ones that relate to heads of months. Echad b'Nisan is 1. Echad b'Elul, Echad b'Tishrei, and Echad b'Shvat, according to Beis Shammai. Now, why don't we mention Omer Shtalechem? We have several pshatim. Either because it doesn't begin at night, it's something which is totally b'mas, and according to Rav Ashi, very simple. It's not something that happens on a Rosh Chodesh. Okay, so what did we learn today? We had a brayta which added 4 more things that relate to Echad b'Nisan. Nisan is the first of the months. Echad b'Nisan is the deadline when it comes to Ibur HaShana. Starting Echad b'Nisan, you use the new funding to finance the new karbanis. And Yesh Oimrim for Schirus Batim. So Echad B'Nisan is considered time up. When it comes to apartment rentals, we discussed the wording of the Mishnah about Rosh HaShanna. We had several interpretations of how to understand the phrase in the Mishnah. Kol tov to you and much, much hatzlacha.